Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today, man, this is a wild update to a video I think I did last year at this point. It's probably been a full year since this whole thing really went down, but you may remember this situation yourself. It's more of an American thing, but it did end up blowing up into a pretty massive news story, and I don't know, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't see it going this way. I kind of figured that once the headlines kind of died out of the media and whatnot, everyone would just kind of forget about it, you know, it'd be one of those little haha things for a couple weeks, and then, you know, we would all move on with life. But apparently that is not the case here. The woman involved in this did not move on with life. In fact, she decided to start a massive lawsuit that just recently closed. I think it was out of court, technically settled out of court, but she ended up getting $500,000. So this is all revolving around Maegan Hall, who was the viral cop last year, who is most known for being, let's just say, a sausage depository for the police force, right? She was an officer of the law who really thought that blue lives matter, you know what I mean? She was all about that thick blue line, not thin, thick blue line. She literally was out here just giving it to the whole squad. So, like I said, this shit blew up. It was everywhere. We were all laughing because, I mean, let's be real, it's a pretty funny story. Like, the whole situation is just really funny, but apparently it wasn't funny to her. She did not appreciate the fact that this became news in the first place, and she sued the local employer, the local government or whatever, right? Vergne, I believe, is where this took place at, in Tennessee, a smaller town, but she ended up suing them, and she settled out of court and got a crazy paycheck. So a former Tennessee cop who got axed for her trysts with 6 other officers on the job has settled her federal civil lawsuit against her former employer for a whopping $500,000, according to reports. Maegan Hall, who claimed she was sexually groomed by a cadre of male colleagues on the force, sued the city of Vergne last year after word of her raunchy romps made national headlines. On Wednesday, the Vergne board voted 3-1 at a special meeting to settle the suit, WTVF News said. Quote, the Vergne Board of Mayor and Aldermen voted tonight to authorize the mayor to sign a settlement agreement between the city of Vergne and former police officer Maegan Hall, city leaders wrote in a statement according to the outlet. So, alright man, obviously this is just fucking wild. Let me call it for what it is. This is just crazy. So, I don't think people realize just how bad this actually is. Like, this isn't just one of those, like, it is funny, you know what I mean? It is hilarious, but in reality, like, this local community actually got fucked, you know what I mean? They got completely railed on this case. And in all reality, this woman should not have had a case in the first place, right? So let me go ahead and break down to you what probably happened. I'm a guy, chances are, according to my viewer demographics, you're also a guy, right? So let me go ahead and inform everybody here of what likely happened, right? So Miss Hall decided to join the police force, right? She decided to become a cop. And she was married, by the way. She had a husband at home, you know, he was, I don't know what he did in his life, like what his job was or whatever, but she would go to work, and I'm assuming that maybe 1-2 of the cops, they thought she was a nice piece of ass, right? They saw Miss Maegan and they were ready. Let's just say that. So, as guys do when they see a woman that they want to penetrate, let's just put it that way, one of them likely approached her and started, you know, spitting game, started laying down some line on her, right? And Miss Maegan, she saw that cop and she just couldn't have enough, right? Let's just say it that way. So she let him put it in, okay? Then, after all that happened, they ended up telling all the other cops, like, yeah, I bagged Maegan, you know, I was all up in that shit. And then all of them, right, like, it's like a fucking radar beacon in their head, just started fucking do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. They connected with her servers and they realized immediately, hey, if Billy over here got his shot at it in the back of a police cruiser, perhaps I got a shot at it in the back of my police cruiser, right? So she went 1 for 2 for 3 for 4 to 5 to 6, then picked up sticks, got out the fucking squad, let half a dozen no baker's oven run through that shit, might I add. 2 of them she slopped off, gave head to on the clock. One of them hit that shit on the clock, right? She had a threesome with 2 of the cops. She was really out here having some fun, okay? Let's just say that. She was out here having a good time. But of course, when you're out here fucking the entire police force of the city, word got out. You know what I mean? Somebody snitched. Somebody hit and then dipped and then told and then fold. So somebody ends up telling someone who's not on the police force. And then, as it happens pretty often in the South, word got around town pretty quick. Suddenly, everybody in town knows that Miss Maegan is out here doing it big on the police force, right? And then it hits the fucking national news, right? Because it's a pretty insane story. Like, she was really out here just, where do I become a fucking police officer, man? That's all I got it. Where do I become a cop at, bro? Is it really that easy? You just pull people over all day and then get to fuck your coworkers in the back of the car? Like, come on, bro. So she willingly went through with all this too. It wasn't like, you know, this was some story where these guys were like fucking threatening her job or like forcing her, doing something weird, right? Something terrible. This is literally just a female cop who decided, gee, I'm gonna cheat on my husband and fuck the whole squad. And because she made that decision, she just got handed $500,000. So not only did she get to become the golden corral of penises for the entire area, she also got paid $500,000 to do it, right? Because apparently the male officers groomed her into doing this. So she was 28 when this all happened, or she's 28 now, one or the other, right? It doesn't matter. She is a fully grown adult. She's been a grown adult for pretty much a decade now, but apparently she was groomed by all these other grown men into fucking. The agreement was negotiated between the attorneys representing the city and Hall, the statement said. The city's insurance provider will pay the sum of $500,000 to Hall as a gross settlement, which includes court costs, attorney's fees, and expenses. The city denies any admission of liability, and no taxpayer funds will be spent to settle this lawsuit. Hall, 28, made national headlines last year after her station house sexcapades went public, including affairs with her supervisor, Lewis Powell, and others. According to an internal investigation, Hall hooked up with several colleagues, sent them nude pictures, and went topless in a Girls Gone Wild themed hot tub party, and even gave head to 2 cops while on duty. Allegedly had a threesome with one of the cops and his wife. According to the city's report, the hanky-panky cost several of the male cops their jobs, including Powell. So I'm not gonna lie, like, do you know how much of a freak that bitch has to be to have a threesome with dude and his wife? Like, that man made vows to that other woman talking about, I will love you to the day I die. And he's in here rawing his coworker in front of her. Like, come on, man. You're telling me this bitch was groomed? Like, come the fuck on, man. I'm sorry. I'm not buying this for a fucking minute. Okay. Now, of course, she lost her job. So did several of the male cops. I don't really blame that, right? Like, obviously, I don't think the police should be having sexcapades, as the article calls it, on staff, right? You shouldn't be doing that. But if this was like a private off-the-job thing, I would give a whole lot less of a fuck, really, because like what you do outside of your job, that's not my business. But like, you are a public servant, you shouldn't be doing that on the clock. I get that part. But once again, they keep saying she was groomed. That's what this all comes down to. She was groomed by her male colleagues into having a threesome with him and his wife and sending them nudes by her own volition off her phone, hooking up with several of them by her own choice, taking her titties out at the hot tub party, right? That was because, you know, all those guys just forced her to do that, right? All those male cops, all those fucking chauvinist pigs, right? They made her do that. They groomed her into doing it. You know, she would have never have done that on her own will. She would have never have done any of this stuff by her own decision. But of course, you know, when you got 6 guys on the police force apparently quote unquote grooming you, right? I mean, hey, that's just how it goes. So in her lawsuit, Hall claimed that her encounters began with an affair with Powell and led to the others in the department targeting her until she gave in to the sexual advances. I know what most people are saying, she said during the first public comments about the scandal in March 2023. You know, you could have said no. I get it. But my response to them is I did say no, and Powell wouldn't take for an answer. Eventually, I gave in from pressure. Hall's lawyer, Wesley Clark, said last year the young ex-cop never had a chance. Okay, so she's saying she said no, okay, to the advances, but bro wouldn't stop. And so she gave in to the pressure, okay? So that's one body. Then apparently all the other dudes in the police force started asking, hey, you gave a piece up to big bro over here, why don't you give me a piece of it too? And apparently she couldn't say no to any of them. You know, she could only say no to Mr. Powell, who apparently wouldn't take no for an answer. I don't know if I believe that, because if he was like really that pressuring and whatnot, she would have been suing this dude for fucking rape. She would have not been suing him or suing the city, I guess, for a settlement, right? But she said no to one dude, and that just somehow explains how all 6 penises ended up in her mouth. So, you know, that's how it goes, bro. Maegan wasn't looked at like a rookie cop to be trained and promoted, Clark said. She was looked at like a piece of meat to be sexualized and exploited. Officials in Vergne did not immediately respond to a request for comment from the Post. Hall blamed her randy behavior on a troubled marriage. Despite Vergne's decision to settle the suit, one board member refused to sign off. What message does that send to all the other employees? City Alderman Dennis Waldron wrote in a dissenting vote, according to WTVF. It's sending a message out to everybody in the world that says, come to Vergne, sue Vergne, because they're gonna settle, Waldron said. All right, now what he said is probably true, right? Like, you know, now this place is nationally known as a city where you can join the police department as a woman, you can fuck as many of the dudes as you want on the staff, and then you can become the victim by the end of it all. And you can get paid $500,000 for cheating on your husband, basically, at work, right? So I also just want to point that out, right? That line says, Hall blamed her randy behavior on a troubled marriage. But literally 5 lines ago, she was saying that her superior pressured her into it, and she couldn't say no because he wouldn't take no for an answer, and then she gave in to the subsequent pressure from all the other male colleagues, right? So first, she was groomed into doing it. She couldn't say no. She was viewed as a piece of meat to be sexualized, and she basically had to do it, had to give in because of the pressure. Now, all of a sudden, she's blaming it on the fact that her and her husband were having problems, and she was having a troubled marriage. So which is it? Were you groomed? You couldn't say no? You had to fuck all 6 of those cops because, you know, it's the way things had to go. They were just, they wouldn't take no for an answer. Or did you fuck all 6 of those dudes because you didn't like your husband anymore, and all the dudes at work were showing you a little interest, you know what I mean? And you saw your opportunity. So not only does a situation like this completely disregard the reality of what happened, it makes this community worse off because now, they, like the guy said, you know, they're viewed as basically a joke nationally, as a group that had to settle with a woman who basically slept with all the cops and whatnot. So this community is now viewed as kind of like a laughing stock or a joke or an easy target. Women in the future who will come out and, you know, say that they were victims of grooming or like workplace stuff, they will be taken less seriously now because there is these viral stories like this of women who will simultaneously blame these situations on a bad marriage and being groomed / taken advantage of, which downplays the severity of really taking advantage of people like that. And no one really benefits in this entire thing except for the woman who cheated on her husband and slept with 1/2 of the cops in the police department. So I don't know, man, you can't even make this shit up anymore. It's a pretty wild ending to it all, but I mean, this is what happened. So I felt like I needed to make a video about this because it's just crazy. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below. Thank you to my Watch Optimus subscribers. Your support helps the channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus. Well, fuck it, I'm about to go sleep with 1/2 the cops downtown right now, and I'm about to settle out of court. They got my walls because, you know, it just is what it is. I got pressured into it. And signing out. And that's a wrap on this video, but big shout out to my Optimus Nation supporters. You guys are the real MVPs. For $10 a month, you get access to loads of exclusive videos and archived live streams, my members only Minecraft server where you can possibly appear in gameplay, early access to all new uploads, an invitation to the private Discord, and much more.